everyone to our 15-minute PittNUG webinar. The topic today is AR deduction and chargeback management. And Angie McCoy is the presenter today. She's gonna enlighten us. So Angie, go ahead, record, and it's on you today. Go ahead.
Thanks, guys, for jumping on. And hope everybody's safe. And let's kind of lose ourselves for 15 minutes in something that is interesting but not crisis oriented. So it's good. All right. So the topic is SuiteSolution AR Deduction and Chargeback Management. Presenting today was supposed to be, besides myself, Linda Thompson. She's the Treasury Manager at SAE International, and she had a COVID-19 crisis at the company, so she can't join right now. But it was with Linda that GYF worked with SAE International to implement this SuiteSolution. By the way, this photo is a shout out to Suite World. That's where we took that little picture. Okay, a couple definitions before we jump into the functionality. NetSuite deems a deduction is a legitimate expense subtracted from receivables. So an example that comes up often is if a customer pays by wire, you get an invoice is $500, you receive $450. The customer definitely sent you $500, but the wire fee is taken out. So that's considered a deduction. Chargeback is if something is in dispute of an expense. So a customer says, look, I want a deduction on this. Could everybody mute their line? So a chargeback is if everybody, hold on one second, guys. I'm going to mute everybody if I can. Okay, so I just muted everybody. Again, a chargeback is if you've given a deduction to a customer, but you need to research it further. You can set a chargeback, which is actually an invoice, back to the customer. Or if, for example, credit card fees, you guys do pay, you do ask your customers to cover any credit card fees, those could be considered a chargeback as well. In addition, we all know that at the end of the year or periodically, you're looking at open invoices and there's a ton of small amounts on invoices and it's a pain in the neck to write those off. This SuiteSolution provides an option to do write-offs in batch based on a threshold that you set up and provide. So those are the definitions we're going on. This is a workflow of what the deduction management process flow looks like. You start out with a customer payment. The payment's made, but there's a remaining amount. Using deduction management, you can automatically put on the invoice what the customer, the amount that you actually received, and NetSuite with deduction management would automatically generate out the credit memo associated with it. Okay? Chargeback, similarly, you get a customer payment coming in, but there is an investigation that needs to be done. Instead of just writing it off without investigation, you can set up a chargeback invoice that can go on hold, and you can bill the customer back if you don't accept the deduction. And then the small balance write-offs you can run through with NetSuite. There's a save search that's provided that looks at your write-off threshold. A script generates out that then automatically creates the credit memo to close out those invoices. Okay, so the goals and objectives, obviously the goal of the deductions and chargebacks are to make life easier when you're using NetSuite. Right now, everybody knows and has seen that if you do get a wire payment and there is a fee taken out, you first have to go outside of the customer payment application and create a journal with the customer name on the journal, then come back to the customer payment application and apply the journal as well as the payment to that invoice in order to close it completely out. Okay, so this provides a much simpler interface to do that because you're staying within the payment function to do all of this. The goals and objectives for small balance write-offs, again, everybody knows you have a bunch of invoices that remain open and continue to be aged out on your AR aging. This is a quick way to set write-off limits. A script runs, creates credit memos against them. The credit memos can be automatically applied or they can go on a hold for somebody to review. And yeah, so it creates that write-off quickly so your aging is cleaner. Okay, now what we're going to do is talk about not only this SuiteSolution, but in general, what is a SuiteSolution, how the SuiteSolutions have documentation associated with them, and then what you need to do to actually request the SuiteSolution if you like it. Search for the bundles once they're shared by NetSuite and print any documentation. Okay, so hang on one second. I'm going to shoot over to NetSuite. Okay, everybody see my screen? So what you're seeing here, hang on a second because I muted everybody. You can unmute yourself if you have questions. Okay, so what is you're seeing here is I just did a search in Suite Answers for SuiteSolutions. SuiteSolutions came from NetSuite's Professional Services. It is a group of functionality that Professional Services has done over several years, but that NetSuite R&D has not accepted as standard functionality in the system yet. These SuiteSolutions used to have a cost to them. They do not anymore. They're all free. So first thing you want to do is go into Suite Answer and look up SuiteSolutions. What's nice about the SuiteSolutions, different from other downloadable bundles that NetSuite provides, is these are open. They're not locked, so you can customize them. So what's really nice about something like AR Deduction Management is you get the scripts, they're open. If they don't fit your needs completely, you can at least have a basis to start and then customize from there. So right now, here's a list of the SuiteSolutions that are out there. If anyone has been in the PittNUG meetings lately, I've brought up a couple of them. The shared vendor bills is a very popular one, and this AR deduction management, but you'll see out here, there's others. From there, selecting AR deduction management, what you need to do is either send us, if we are your NetSuite partner, a request that you want the SuiteSolution. We then put in a ticket into NetSuite to have it shared to your system, and then you'll see it on a bundle for you. But with each SuiteSolution is significant documentation provided. So it's not like they're giving you the capability but not providing the documentation with it. So it's actually really good how they've put these together. Again, if you get the SuiteSolution provision to you, it'll show up. It's a shared bundle. You will not get it unless you tell NetSuite to provision it to your account. And the only way to do that is to either contact us or contact your NetSuite representative to get that. Oops. Each SuiteSolution has a bundle associated with it. Oh, it's not letting me get into the bundle. I was going to show you the actual list of everything that's in that bundle. In that bundle, though, includes, as part of it, all the scripts that are needed, the documentation, the dashboards, and so on. Once you install the SuiteSolution, NetSuite automatically creates a deduction management dashboard for you, provides you with a bunch of saved searches and all that's needed to set it up. So in this, the hardest thing with setting up deduction management is this. The way deduction management flows is that you assign a deduction and chargeback type. These each have associated with them a non-inventory item, and the non-inventory item has all the accounting reference to it. So the first thing you have to do is set up how you want, for example, in this case for SAE, it's bank fees. How do you want bank fees distributed accounting-wise? Because SAE has dozens of subsidiaries, they set theirs up by subsidiary, their business unit, their product group, and location. So this is department, class, and location in standard NetSuite. And then indicates what accounts are supposed to be hit when a transaction goes through. So again, deduction type is set up. Associated with the deduction type is a bank fee. Similarly, if you have a chargeback item type that needs to be created, you would have the chargeback type set up and an item associated with it. In addition, if you have a write-off that needs to be created, a write-off type is set up and an item associated with it. When you set your write-off limits, you just go in and create what percentage of invoice you can write off and what's the exceeding amount, not to exceed amount. Finally, there is a tab specifically to tie this all together. So far all you've done is set up non-inventory items so that the credit memos and the chargeback invoices will hit the appropriate accounts. You've created deduction types and chargeback types and write-off types. Then you come in and you set up your default setup. So you can enable small balance write-offs. In this section, it indicates whether or not what the saved search is for your small balance write-off and what the memo is going to be on the credit memo that's created. You can enable deduction management. You set a default deduction type. You set a default chargeback type. And then you indicate what form will be used when the chargeback invoice is created. Here is an example in SAE. We had an invoice that was $500. A payment came in for $482 and was applied at the time of payment with this deduction management flag turned on. On the save of the payment, NetSuite shot off and created a credit memo to this customer that was applied directly to that invoice. Okay, so hang on one second. Okay, I am going to unmute you all to see if there are any questions.
You are unmuted.
So that is pretty much it for AR deduction and chargeback management with write-offs. Do you guys have any questions?
Don't be shy. What's echoing like?
So if there aren't any questions, we're going to post this up on the webinar site. There we are again. There's Linda and I again.
Hey, Nancy.
Yes?
This is Teresa. I have a question.
Sure.
So with this, it would be a deduction in sales for the $18, say, wire fee?
So no, because you want your sales to remain the same. You would set up that the income account is an expense account.
Okay.
Or a bank fee account, right? So as long as you have the option set in your NetSuite enabled features to expand account list, you can select a non-income account on that transaction.
Looks like Michelle Hart has a question, Angie.
What's that?
Looks like Michelle Hart has a question. Angie,
It's really echoing. Will you be able to see the deduction on the invoice? No. You go into the deduction management table to see how they're all related.
Okay.
The invoice will be marked as paid though. The invoice is marked as paid in full. But it's not in the related records, if that's what you mean.
It looks like it leaves a balance on the invoice from the picture you showed.
No. Hang on one second. So if you look at this invoice, the invoice is paid in full. Okay, but if you go to the deduction list, it's showing how these three are related. So the credit memo is associated, that they're all tied together. So there isn't a balance on the invoice. When you, in the payment, it looks like there is, right? But the associated credit memo on there wipes it out. So you're looking at the full invoice to see the full picture, that it's paid in full.
Can I
That
ask a
makes-
question?
Yep.
Yeah, sorry. So I'm a little new to NetSuite, and I'm just learning everything through this process. So are you able to link those deductions to individual customers? Like if you have some customers that have a 2% discount or some customers that have a 1%?
Okay,
That
that's
you
the
did
difference
for
between a discount and a deduction. Okay, so what we're talking about is a deduction that really doesn't have anything to do with a discount. If there was a discount associated with the payment, it would be put here.
Okay.
If it's 1 or 2% or that kind of thing. So for example, if it was 1% net 30 or whatever, if they paid within 30 days, they get 1% discount or something like that. That would be a discount. This is a deduction that really is not going against the customer at all. It's for you guys to remove, to be able to mark the invoice as paid in full, yet still capture your bank fees. Because again, without you customizing NetSuite to do exactly what this SuiteSolution is doing, or without having to manually, before you apply the payment, stop, go over, make a journal, and on the journal, put the customer's name on the journal line. When you come back, you would have to then go and apply the credit of the journal to it. So it was many steps that needed to be done in order to just get a bunch of, so for example, SAE, where this saved them tons, is they're an international company. They get most of their money wired over. So their AR person was having to go first take all of the wires and go and create a ton of journals, then come back into and grab the invoices and apply the payments with the journals. In this case now, she can sit there for each payment and just automatically it'll create the credit memo associated with it.
And it'll do that each time whenever the payment's applied?
Yes.
It'll say, now there's
As long as you
deduction
have
applied
this
for
flag on. As long as you have the flag on. So for example, if somebody did truly, the invoice was $500 and they only paid $482, when you create that payment, you don't turn this flag on because they still owe you $18. This is for the case where you truly want to manage a deduction off of the invoice to mark it paid in full because the customer did pay it in full. It's just in transit, there were fees associated with it.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
That makes sense?
So
Anything else?
this will show up on every customer account?
No, so the credit memo will show up, but you don't have to print it on any statements. These wouldn't show up on a statement. right? The customer would see that the invoice was paid in full,
Okay,
okay? But behind the scenes, you're managing your account behind the scenes. Without this and without creating a manual journal, it would always look like this customer still owed $18 when in fact they sent you a check for $500. It's just en route, there were fees associated with it.
correct. I mean, when you download this program into NetSuite, it's going to show on every customer's account. So we need to watch every payment to make sure that's either checked or not checked is applicable, correct?
Right, or what you do is when you do the payment, you set different forms up. So for example, you could set up apply payment with a deduction. So like right now, they just have a standard form customer payment. You could have one customer payment with deduction. And on that one, you would not have, on the one without deduction, you would not have that flag of deduction management on. So you either have everybody watch and make sure this isn't on when they're applying payment, and they have to physically know to check this off in order for a deduction to occur, or you create a separate form so when they come in to apply payments, it'll be customer payment with deductions. So you go through all your payments that have deductions using one form that shows this field, or customer payments without deductions, that form wouldn't show this field, therefore a credit memo wouldn't get created. So it's whatever is easier for you, for your process. Do you guys organize? These are all the wire payments we just got in, therefore I'm going to go in and use the function called customer payment with deductions and run them all through. And then if you have checks that come in, you do that on just customer payments that doesn't have the deduction management turned on. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else?
Will you be sending out complete details of this?
Yeah, the webinar will go out. The webinar will go out, and what we can do, again, NetSuite has these for every suite solution, but what we can do is attach, Rhonda can attach this to the email.
Oh, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay, and it's pretty extensive, the documentation. The only tricky thing, and I need to let you guys know, and I forgot to mention, is permissions. You do have to set permissions for who you want to be able to see or act on deduction management, because you don't want to give it to everybody. So, but it goes through that in here, how to set permissions. Okay. That's all I have.
Thanks, Angie. It was a great job. That's Angie McCoy from Grossman, Yannick & Ford.
And if you
And,
see Lynn